What's up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Bottom Line on Sports, our show about the intersection between sports and money. He's Jeremy Pink. I'm Jean-Jacques Taylor. And oh boy, do we have a number for you today. It's 140 million. That, my friends, is
Is that
just about the amount of money
that's your
DeAndre
401k? That's your 401k balance. No.
No, it was like during COVID when it
Anyway,
dropped
I
to
didn't
like
mean to interrupt. 140 million is what?
That's DeAndre Hopkins' career earnings, more or less. The big time wide receiver, NFL wide receiver. But more importantly, he said he's been taking finance. He took finance classes at Clemson once he got into the league so that he could understand one, how to manage his money, and two, how to take care of his money so that he didn't have to rely on anybody besides himself to do it. While he's got a team, it also allows him to keep an eye on his team. And my initial thought is, I can't believe more people don't do this.
Do you think that the NFL would offer something like that? And if they did, do you think any of the players would actually use it?
I think a few players use it. The NFL has a they got a list of preferred agents. I mean, financial people. Like
Right.
these people we vetted out, and they have a history of not stealing your money.
Mhm.
But even so, man, too many. Like as a business person, anybody who's in business, especially, they tell you, well, here, how about this? I've got a client who's been in business. He's made I think his business grosses 100 million a year, and he says he still does signs all the checks for his taxes,
Sure.
and he signs all the checks
Hmm.
for certain stuff that goes out. Some stuff he delegates, but some certain stuff like the taxes and everything, he said I sign every check and I look at it, and I've been doing it for 27 years. And I go, well, don't you have somebody you can do that to? He goes, yeah, and that's why I delegate most of it. But these few things right here, I take care of myself, so I can never ever get. There can never be any
Right.
mistake unless I made it, and if
Right.
I made it, it's not okay, but I can live with it.
Yeah. That's totally understandable. I think in DeAndre Hopkins' case, I think it's admirable too. I think I read the piece on him that I can't remember where I saw the piece, but I read the piece on him, and he was sort of very self-deprecating and said, I didn't know this stuff. I had to go back to school. I had to learn it. And he's managing on his own. And I think that's a very admirable thing to do. And I would say there are few and far between athletes who are making that kind of money who are going to do that.
Dude, the interesting thing to me is we're talking about a world where now everybody who's become an athlete, you've read the horror stories about people
Of
who've
course.
lost hundreds of millions and
Of
whatever.
course.
But I tell you, man, it's still crazy. There's this series on Twitter, and maybe you've seen it, maybe. And it's I've seen it a lot. And so it's like a series that people go, here's how they're athletes, usually football or basketball. Here's how I spent my first million, whether it was a draft pick or whatever. Here's how I spent my first million. And it's just amazing where that first million goes. And you can just off the top of your head just guess where it goes. I bought myself a car.
Yeah, my mama house.
I bought my mom a car.
Uh-huh.
I bought my dad a car. I bought my mom a house. I spent 100,000 on jewelry and 100. I mean, there's not an appreciable asset in there
Right.
except the house that you bought your mom that ain't
Right.
even in your name,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. It's like I said, if I ever won the lottery, what I would do is I would let it sit for a year and not spend any money. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not even sure I mean, I would put it in some high yield something, just be very conservative and say, sit for a year, and that's it. That's it. And then after a year, figure out what to do. I think that this becomes even more incumbent now on universities to do this as well, because you have
Yeah.
athletes who are essentially the equivalent of employees of the university, or they're getting paid, or however ultimately it's going to work. I think that should be required by the universities too. I think there needs to be some sort of system in place to help people who come into this kind of sudden wealth, that they can keep it. Because you have people who you have athletes who are in college now who are making seven figures a year, and that can meaningfully change the rest of their lives.
dude.
Yeah,
Even if you even let's say you're a really good player, but you're not a superstar. If you sign out of high school and they pay you 600 grand for your 4 years that you play, and then you don't go to the league or whatever, you should be able to make $2.4 million set you up for quite a bit of time if you just use a little bit of sense.
that's right. And also it's you're not going to make 600 grand after you graduate from
No,
college. Yeah.
no,
Not as a
no.
23-year-old or a 22-year-old.
no.
You're just not. So
So I think it's great for DeAndre Hopkins to want to go back and educate himself, just so he understands what's going on with his money. And I'm always curious. I've
but
talked
hold
to a
on.
lot of players about their money. I'm just curious why more guys aren't compelled to that. Because here's a misnomer. Trust me, you can't be dumb and play college and NFL football.
Agreed. Totally
It's too
agree.
complicated. Really, it's too
Totally
complicated.
agree. Totally agree.
So if you put the same level of time investment and understand your money and how your money works, even if that's the only thing you want to study, that would be worth your time the same way you study a playbook or you study a scheme.
I agree with that. I also think one of the best things about DeAndre Hopkins right now is that he's talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's critical because if there are, models or people who are or mentors or examples of people who are doing that and it's paid off for them both literally and figuratively,
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think he should, if I were him, I would pull together other athletes like him and create something, create some
Yeah.
sort of, fun, not fun, but some sort of organization that they can take that into their own hands and help athletes who are coming up and they have a place to go. Because I'm not
You know
sure
who
that,
does a good
yeah, I
job
don't,
of that is Ndamukong Suh. He's got like a podcast that talks about money and finance for athletes, which is actually pretty good.
I didn't even know that. Now he was a monster. My goodness,
Mm-hmm.
he's a great player.
And,
But
you know,
again, that's good because I think it actually matters that they're not, kind of
but
they're good players. DeAndre Hopkins is an amazing receiver. Uh, Sue is a phenomenal nose tackle. I think that really matters.
I think the other thing is it's great to educate yourself, and that should be number one. But I've always said, because I've talked to players about this, if you're in the NFL and you don't know what to do with your money and you're just like, wow, I wish I had some knowledge. Let me tell you, the only thing you have to do, walk over to the quarterback's locker.
Right,
No, seriously, and
right.
say, hey, bro, what do you do with your money? And I guarantee you, the quarterback is in some conservative, high yield something or other, because you don't hear about quarterbacks going broke very often.
Hmm.
So that's one thing to do. And if you're in college trying to figure it out, I would even say during some free time, you walk over to Coach Saban's office. Coach Saban, who should I talk to about where to put my money? Or
Hmm.
what suggestions do
Hmm.
you have with my money?
Yeah,
And because most of those guys are doing well.
yeah.
And if
I
you
I
play
think
for
that's
Colorado, Dion will say, find some dirt and buy it.
right. Right. Buy some land. I look at it. I look at it this way. It's that's great, and it does require some initiative to do that. But if you look at now we'll bore everybody silly, but if you look at the contributions to 401k plans in
Yeah.
the United States, that went up when people were forced to opt into it, where they didn't even realize they were contributing to it, and it increased every single year, as a result of like kind of this automated opt-in. I think that's what universities need to do is they need to force their students to either take classes or offer some sort of equivalent of a 401k program or do something that forces them to opt in on it.
And we'll take a very quick sidebar. One of the great things my mother did because she worked in HR when I was in college, she told me with my first job at the morning news, oh, you should get in your 401k and you should max it out. So I was a guy who put 15% in, which is what you could do to max at the time, literally from the time I got out of
That's smart.
college
Yeah, that's smart.
until 2016 when I started working for myself. And that's just the way I operated. And so for me, it was normal. But the funny thing is, when I got married to my wife, I said, "Hey, what are you doing with your 401k?" And she was like most people. She said, 4%. I said, "Okay, you mind if I manage that for you?" Bro, I
No
got that thing.
disposable income next paycheck, right?
I, I got that thing up
Right.
because at one time she was making a lot less than me, but I had her thing at like 24% or
It's great.
to get it. And she got her check one time after that. Just like, what happened to my check?
All
I
right.
go, don't worry about it, baby. I got you covered.
Uh-huh. But that's the
And
right. It's
she's
it's the
happy
right thing
now.
to do. But there needs to be some sort of mechanism like that, I think, for the professional players, college players, whether
Yeah.
it's an educational thing or a forced investment or something forced that at least gets the money into retirement.
No, I would
Retirement
believe
account.
I would go for that. So bottom line for me, DeAndre Hopkins, go grab some of your boys, and even if you have a sports and money, what do you call it thing, forum, and you tell a bunch of young guys about it,
Great.
do that. Each one teach one.
Yeah, absolutely right. But I was going to say the virtually the same thing. Bottom line for me, DeAndre Hopkins, keep talking about it, bring other people in to talk about it, and that's going to solve a lot of issues for, especially I'm most worried for college athletes who are going to,
Dude,
they're going to have.
that crash is coming in
I
about
know,
two
I
or three
know,
years.
I know. It's
Let's head to the World Cup. Tough loss for the U.S. Got smacked upside the head 4-1 to Belgium. Game wasn't even really competitive. It was competitive out of the. I mean, it may have been competitive for spurts, but they were chasing the game the whole time. How about this? 42 million people watched it.
yeah, it's like it's pretty remarkable because it's going to probably be at the level of like an NFL playoff game, and it will be if you look at like the top 100 rated programs or shows in the United States in
Right.
any year, usually like 95 or 90 of them or some crazy percentage are
NFL.
NFL games. This year, there's going to be a few soccer games, World Cup matches that are going to be in there.
Dude,
And
and they didn't have to win it, but they just wasted a huge opportunity in terms of momentum with such a poor performance. Uh, but that being said, it seems like some people are interested in ponying up some big dollars
yeah, it's
for
amazing
the
because
20 and for the next ones.
yeah, so Fox has the English language rights for it right now, and the there's bidding or there's interest in the rights for the World Cup in 2030 and 2034, and the numbers being bandied about are 3 to 4 times the amount of money that Fox paid for this year's rights. And I read somewhere, and I think it was in Front Office Sports, that the advertising around the hydration breaks alone is they're making enough money on advertising around the hydration breaks alone that covers their rights fees. That's how much money is being
Dude,
generated by World Cup on TV this year.
because remember they spent 500 million, right?
About 500 million for the rights this year. This is the English language rights. You've got Peacock and I think it's Telemundo have the Spanish language rights.
Right.
Mhm.
So they spent 500 million, and they're like, oh, that's a drop in the bucket for what we're getting back. And so if you spent that much, where the numbers must be going for the next ones because they've seen what it can do with these kinds of numbers.
Absolutely. The other thing too that hasn't been talked about enough is I think Fox's coverage has
Yeah.
been spectacular. I think it's been excellent. I think it's been spectacular. I think you can find the games easily.
Now you can find the games easily, which is number one.
You can find the games easily. They are showing soccer in kind of its purest format. You're not seeing
Not a
these.
lot of commercials.
There's not a lot of the hydration breaks are critical because the hydration breaks are basically forcing ad breaks in the middle of each of the two halves. Before, if you remember, they would squeeze the picture to a corner and have an ad on the
Right.
side. They don't do that anymore. So it's a very pure form of soccer that's being produced, and they have the Mike Ferrero equivalent in every game that's explaining the penalties and the
Right.
rules and the officiating, and uh, they have extremely knowledgeable play-by-play and color commentators. I think that's one of the things that's underappreciated, I think, is that the Fox coverage has been spectacular from in my estimation.
You know what? That's probably pretty good. And it's probably right because I haven't noticed this, which means it's good. You
That's
know what
exactly right. If you don't notice it, it's good. I mean, if you were and as you watch it, and I'm not sure if Fox is actually, I think they're taking a world feed, or I think there's one single feed of it. I'm not 100% sure, but still, I think uh, the coverage has been spectacular, in my opinion. I'm not big on I'm not big on pre and post game shows in general, but
Oh, I like these.
but Thierry Henry, who is I've learned more listening to Thierry Henry about soccer in the last 3 weeks
He's
than
been
I have in
great.
the last 6 years. Yeah,
No, he's been great. And then you know, what's his name? Zlatan.
Zlatan.
Um, he's gotten better. He was pretty stiff early on,
Yeah,
and he's gotten better because it feels like he doesn't care now. So now he's just, you know what I'm saying? Like he's just saying
yeah,
whatever's on his mind, which is great. And
right.
then Alexi Lawless, who you know half the audience loves, or maybe most of the audience hates, and a
Yeah,
sliver of it
he's really
loves.
disliked. Yeah.
But you need that in TV. And then his back and forth with Thierry Henry, especially the other day when they were talking about the Argentina game.
Hmm.
And oh, actually, in that one, and also when they were talking about should Balogun be allowed to play after the red card,
Yeah.
that was pretty good because you could feel the real tenseness on the
Yeah.
set without it going overboard.
Yeah. I think I didn't see that, but I'm sure that's true. The thing I like about Thierry Henry is that when I watch football, I have a pretty good idea. I mean, I'm not a coach by any means, but I can
Right?
kind of tell what's going on, and I have a pretty good idea, nuts and bolts of the game. In soccer, I don't. I have some knowledge, but not a lot. And Thierry Henry will point out things that I could have watched that game 6 times and I would never have seen any of it. He points it out, and he points out things that I think are really effective for studio analysts. They
Yeah.
point out things that are hidden in plain sight to me as a viewer, and
Right.
he points things out, and you go, "Oh, of course that's the case." But
Yeah.
I didn't see it on my own until he pointed it out, and then you can't unsee it. And I think he does an excellent job. But it just shows you the interest in the World Cup in the United States is pretty amazing. Now, the other major benefit outside of the great coverage I think that Fox has done, and I have no ties to Fox. I'm just really, I've produced a lot of TV in my
I was
life.
gonna say you've produced a lot of TV, so you
Yeah,
know what good TV
yeah,
is.
yeah. And so I'm very impressed with their coverage. The other thing that is very underappreciated is it's in the North American time zone.
Oh, dude, I think
So
that's huge.
yeah, so the games are good times, and
Yeah.
it's optimized a lot for the West Coast too, because West Coast interest in soccer on the West Coast is huge, particularly in the Northwest, and then particularly in Northwest, Northern California. It's huge in that area, and in Southern California as well. And so it's optimized. They've really optimized the games as well for viewership. I think it's been a extraordinarily well done World Cup so far.
And then we're going to Europe in 2030, which means we'll have that 6 hour time difference.
Yeah, the
And,
games are going to be, and but it's the games are going to be late at night, a lot of them, because it's going to be optimized for prime time in Europe. So you're going to have
right?
2:30 a.m. games,
Yeah.
but it's even now if you look at like the World Cup finals being played at 3 o'clock Eastern, which is going to be 9 o'clock in most of Europe,
Well,
9 p.m. in most of Europe.
I think they said the Belgian folks were filled up their entire country watching it at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
So,
right. That game was late. So who do you got? Who's going to win?
dude, I think the French are going to be hard to beat. Um, I would love another French and Argentina final. That thing might be 5-4. Norway is sneaky good because they got the superstar. And so, for whatever reason, I don't have any faith in England. Uh, and I don't know why I haven't paid much attention to Spain. Seems like they're having a hard time scoring, or maybe they just play more of a defensive style. But I think for France, with their creativity and their experience, I like them to win it.
Yeah, I mean, France has the best players, but I think England has the second best players. So I'd love to see France and England.
Oh,
And
that'd be a war.
yeah, it would
Uh,
be great. That would
so
be that would
I think it's been a great tournament in part because, for whatever reason, whether they're all in their athletic prime or because you added another layer of teams, and so you've had some bad teams in there or some lesser teams. I think part of the reason this World Cup feels so good is that, and we touched on this once before, is that
yeah.
there's been a lot of goals, relatively speaking. Like, I can't imagine we've seen like several 2-0 comebacks. And
It never
before,
happens. Never
I was
happens.
gonna say
Yeah,
before, it seems like 2 goals, that's a wrap. You'll never
right,
score.
right.
And so the games have been riveting, but it feels like to me like they're, for the most part, they're playing really attacking soccer. They're not sitting back in defensive shells, scared to make a mistake, and playing those boring ass
Mhm.
pass the ball around, never attack midfield games that suck. So it's been really good soccer, football, and
And the superstars are playing phenomenally well, and that's
dude,
except for the American superstar, but the
bro,
superstars are playing incredibly well.
somebody what's his name? Tyler Twyman.
Twellman, I think Twellman. I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
He had the best point that I've seen about Christian Pulisic on some show I saw him today, and I believe this applies to a lot of athletes. And as fans, you get frustrated. And as a journalist, I've been telling people this for years as it relates to certain individual players. And he said the problem with Christian Pulisic is he doesn't want to be that guy. He doesn't want to be the superstar. He goes, in Milan, he's the third best player, and he's incredible because he doesn't feel that pressure and he can just play free.
hmm
And I said a lot in football. The one I said most about, and he's a terrific player, CeeDee Lamb. And they go, CeeDee Lamb needs to do this and do it. I said, CeeDee Lamb has shown me no indication that he wants to be the guy
hmm
on the Cowboys. Like, he wants to be a good player, but he doesn't want all the smoke that comes with being the leader,
hmm
which is fine because everybody's not built like that. And apparently, but here's the deal: if you're an organization and you understand that Christian Pulisic is not built to be that guy, then you got to set your organization up so that he ain't that guy.
Well,
Even though he's the best player,
he
you
also
can.
gets it. He's also like, he's also not very. He also gets injured all the time, and you
Well,
can't be the
that's
guy if you never play.
and he's got this whole kind of just his whole nothing about him says I want to be the face of the franchise. I want to be the
I
face
agree
of
with that.
the team. And
I
if
agree
you
with that.
ask guys to do that when they're not comfortable doing that or they don't want to do it, it's usually a disaster.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. All right. So what's
No.
the bottom line for you?
Bottom line for me is I can't believe they're actually going to think 500 million is like chump change when these next TV ratings or next TV negotiations come around for teams for organizations that want to buy into the World Cup.
Bottom line for me, uh, sports rights fees, even the World Cup in the United States, are going to continue to move higher because live events and live sporting events driving, are some of the only events that are driving huge amounts of viewership at a given moment in time.
It's the only real thing out there where you don't know the outcome, and it's just it's crazy when the
Well,
world's watching.
well, I assume you're watching Dancing with Stars every week or Dancing with the Stars, which I've never seen, but
No.
no.
Hey, before we move on, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Mm.
We can use all the help we can get. Just hit that little thing. You know where it is, right there. Bink, bink. And help you boys out. Hey, big news. Like, I was out of town last week in Chicago for a family reunion. You look to me like the kind of guy who would love a family reunion every 2 years.
Oh, I can't think of anything better. Yeah.
So when I came back from the family reunion, I didn't realize because I've been busy with that and doing a little bit of travel that the Big 12 Media Days were in Dallas like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, or at least Monday and Tuesday. But anyway, so the big news out of that for me was, and I was, anyway, the Big 12 finalized a sponsorship deal with Monster Energy, making it the entitlement partner for football and basketball, they're also getting logos on the court and the field. And it's the Big 12, it's the Monster Energy Big 10, I mean Big 12.
Uh-huh.
They're getting all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And it's now me and Pink don't have this kind of money, but it's only $20 million a year, which if you divide it by the club, the teams, they're making like a 1.6 million a year, which
It's like I think what is there? There's 16 teams in the Big 12. I don't
yeah,
know. Yeah. So whatever. Yeah, yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah, that sounds basically just north of a million each, right?
which seems like chump change in today's market. Like okay, so they get 1.6 million. What's that buy you? One defensive end? Maybe
Well,
buys
yeah,
you,
yeah.
maybe buys you a
But it
four-star
also
receiver.
it also speaks. Well, first of all, Big 12 day was in Dallas Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week.
Yeah,
So it was almost impossible to get a flight in because there's a huge deluge of media coming in, right? Because we were kind of talking about this right before we taped that I could name maybe six teams in the Big 12.
okay, the
You
bigger
can
question was how many teams are in the Big 12?
right.
Because I don't even know.
I think there's 16.
Well, I named, I got
You did
stuck at
well.
11.
You did well.
No,
But
I didn't because I'm in Big 12 country. I should know
yeah,
them all.
well, you missed Texas Tech, which I couldn't, Of course, I didn't know Texas Tech either, um, but no, but you bring up $1 million is nothing in today's NIL world. It's nothing.
Right?
And
Ooh,
uh, um,
ooh.
and so if it's $20 million for a sponsorship, what it tells you is that college football, like a lot of other businesses, is becoming very much of a winner take all environment. There's going to be
Right.
10, 12, 15 teams that are going to be in the hunt every year, and there's probably only going to be about five or six who actually have a chance to win it. And the only schools in the Big 12 that might have a chance are Texas Tech because they're spending a fortune,
Right.
maybe
And Texas
Arizona,
Tech.
maybe Arizona State, maybe Oklahoma State, but there really isn't, maybe BYU, but there isn't really any other team. So the value of a sponsorship of those teams isn't that great. It's just not
No,
that great.
no, because they're gonna get a team in a dance, but nobody's gonna they're gonna be an underdog every time they play. Texas Tech, you're right. They should be the class of this league because they're spending more money than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a money league, it's a money game. But if they're getting 20 million for 16 teams, what the heck is the SEC? Because these things all follow. Now that they've done it, the Big Ten is like, oh, who knew? There's another revenue stream we get, fellas. Like, how much can the Big Ten get? And would Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, USC be better served? Like, you know what? We don't want a group patch. We want to go out and do our own patch.
Do the Jerry Jones way.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want a Big Ten. We don't want to participate in the Big Ten sponsorship deal. We want our own deal because if we got to split it with these other teams in the Big 12, Big 10, we're only getting, $8 million a year.
Yeah.
We can get it ourselves and do, $27 million a year. Make it make sense to us. And again, that's how and Alabama and LSU could do that in the SEC along with Texas. And so, as we continue to say, and you have said for a minute now, it's just more and more and more. It's the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah. It is so top heavy. It's winner take all, a lot of the market. And I think this is a really stark example of that. It's I believe that the rights fees, or not the rights fees, the sponsorship revenue rather, like the Monster Patch, is predicated on the TV deals as well. Because it's
What
the
do you mean?
TV. In other words, like the amount of money that a sponsor is willing to pay for a sponsorship patch is
Right?
directly correlated to how much exposure that patch is going to get on TV, right?
Okay.
So Big 12 teams are not in any of the good windows on TV.
No.
Big 10 teams and SEC teams are in all the good windows. So
Yeah.
the just by virtue of that alone, the value of a sponsorship patch on a Big 10, a Big 10 conference uniform versus a Big 12 conference uniform is many, many fold higher. No question about it.
I mean, you asked the question when we were just chit chatting. Who in the Big 12 are you stopping what you're doing to watch? And I was just like, okay, I got a relationship with Deion Sanders, so I'm always curious about
Yeah.
Colorado. But outside of that, nobody. Maybe Texas Tech and maybe Arizona State.
I would say, I look at something like Arizona State, and you just mentioned them. When you have a player like Cam Scadaboo, who was on their team a couple of years ago, you might watch if there's a single player on that team, but you're
Right,
not going to watch for the school itself.
right,
That's the difference. Whereas Alabama, you'll watch for Alabama. You
right,
know, Arizona State, you watch for Cam Scadaboo. Ohio State, you watch for Ohio State.
right.
So that I think is the difference. And just the amount of exposure that a Big Ten school gets versus a Big 12 school gets is they're two different leagues, and it's kind of where I think college football is headed, which is it's going to be, and it's already become one big super conference plus Notre Dame,
Yeah,
and that's what's going to determine that's going to determine the national champion, and then you'll get a few outliers in there from
yeah.
time to time, or some if you look, for example, the English Premier League, maybe 15, 20 years ago, Manchester City wasn't a great team in the EPL,
Well,
but they started spending a ton of money, and now they're always in the top four in
I
the
was gonna say,
EPL.
and then you had that 1 year Leicester City one.
Yeah, and
Um,
it'll happen, but
right.
that's the exception that proves the rule.
It's like the year the Texas Rangers won the World Series. It happens, and then you enjoy it, and it's an outlier.
Is that was Ron Washington a manager or not?
Sadly, no. They
He
went to
was
the World Series with Ryan
he
Washington.
was the one who they lost the World Series in like this heartbreaking way. He was the manager. Who's the manager of the Rangers then?
Ryan Washington in 2010 and 2011.
No, the World Series.
Bruce Bochy.
Oh, Bochy was. That's right. That's right.
Right.
Which is a
Adding to
shame because
his.
Ron Washington did a phenomenal job with the Rangers and then
Oh
had just
man,
heartbreaking.
Wash was my guy.
Yeah.
Josh Hamilton. After they lose it in the ninth, Hamilton hits a homer in the 10th. Everybody goes down to the clubhouse area, expecting them to be able to shut it down and set up for interviews. They lose it, and then, bro, you got to go in and interview those guys in the clubhouse with all that tape covering their lockers
Oh my
as they were
God.
getting ready for the champagne showers,
Yeah, it's horrible.
and it was not a fun experience.
Best pure swings I've seen in baseball. Josh
And,
Hamilton,
yeah,
Will Clark. What do you think?
wow. I was Josh Hamilton was
The
Josh.
most beautiful swing I've ever seen.
I would say Josh. It's funny because I covered both of those guys. I'd say Josh Hamilton and Ken Griffey Jr.
Oh, Ken Griffey Jr. That's true. But I just thought Will Clark's swing was one of the most purest, best swings I've ever seen.
I had a love hate relationship with Will Clark, as did most people, because sometimes he could be charming and really teach you a lot about the game, and other times he'd just be the biggest
Yep.
douchebag out there. And so, and you never knew on a given day which one you're going to get.
He was
But
with
he,
so he was with the Giants most of his career, right?
right?
Yeah.
Then he signed as a free agent with the Rangers.
That's right. He went to that's right. And so when you were covering the Rangers, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't remember what my role was then because I can't remember when he was with the Rangers.
Hmm.
Because I covered baseball for a couple of years before I went to football, and then when I was a columnist, obviously I was covering a lot of baseball.
Right.
So, my career fools me. I can't remember. I can't remember Will Clark's time in
Right.
Texas. I also don't remember A Rod's time in Texas. And people look at me like, how can you not remember A Rod's time in Texas? He hit 50 homers each of the 3 years he was with the Rangers. And I really don't. I literally don't remember A Rod in Texas, and
I
that's
just remember.
because the A Rod showed up in 2003, right when Bill Parcells became the Cowboys head coach, and when Bill Parcells took over the Cowboys, it just became just a zoo.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great for a columnist to cover that or a reporter. It's a great. So, but going back to the Monster Energy, patch for 20 million. You think that's going to usher in
Oh my
those
God,
types of
yeah.
deals all over the place? I think that's a
Well,
good
check this
call.
out, man. It started. If you look at just sports, the NBA started putting these little patches on,
Yeah, true.
and the Mavericks just signed with somebody. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. Their deal ended this at the end of last season. They literally just signed with somebody the other day, who was a much bigger company. Their name escapes me, but you would know the company if I said. I just can't remember right now. And so to me, man, all these teams, all these leagues are looking for revenue. And the next one is obvious. This thing with Monster is going to start in colleges, and then you watch. I don't know how long it's going to take. NFL is going to do it
For
because
sure.
how much would you pay to have a patch on the Dallas Cowboys jersey? It would be, pick a number.
Just look at NASCAR and just look at golf. It's gonna
That's
and look at
yeah.
and look at tennis. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It's and now this is just like, oh, we haven't really paid enough attention to this. Let's get on it. And within 2 years, the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC will all have deals like this. They'll be a lot better though than this deal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I give. So bottom line for me, man, I give the Big 12 kudos for being bold. It just seems like they could have got just a little more cash out of it for what they're giving up, because they're giving up a lot.
Bottom line for me, I just got to learn the teams in the Big 12. I have no idea who any of them are. It's pretty embarrassing. And I'll tell you, my first job at CNN Sports way back when, I had to take a test on sports knowledge, and I
Right,
had
right.
I had to name the teams of the Big Eight, and
Wow.
and I knew them. And I'm now looking up 40 years later, and I can name maybe six teams in the Big 12, which is the sort of the successor kind of to the Big Eight. But anyway, bottom line for me is got to learn who the hell's in the Big 12.
Um, and this leads us to I have a trivia question for you. This leads us to our favorite time of the show, the Ohio State conversation. This time we have a baseball player. Now the odds of us talking about Ohio State baseball are not on anybody's bingo card. But the Buckeyes have a player who has been named to the All-Star game. Detroit Tigers catcher Dylan Dingler.
I thought it was Dirk. No,
Not to be confused with
is
Dirk
it is
Diggler.
it is it Dirk or Dylan?
It's Dylan.
It's Dylan Dingler. Okay.
Yeah, not Dirk Diggler. That was our joke.
Oh, okay. Right, right, right. Exactly.
The
Jeez.
question is, can you name the other three Ohio State baseball players to play in the MLB All-Star game?
All right. So I know one of them for sure. He's an ex-Chicago Cub, Nick Swisher. I'm sure he's one of them, right?
That's the only one I knew.
Right.
I heard of the other guy,
Um,
and he's actually got some Texas Rangers roots.
is Paul O'Neill? He's
No,
a Columbus guy, but he never played. He didn't play at
no.
Ohio State. I don't know. The Nick Swisher's the one name that I know.
Frank Howard.
Oh, Frank Howard. I didn't know. Oh, of course. Yeah,
Uh, Played for the Washington Senators. See,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
a
No, he's a
question.
great player.
And I had never heard of this guy. Johnny Edwards, a catcher selected in 63 and 64 while playing with the Cincinnati Reds. Dylan Dingler ends a 16-year drought last time a Buckeye played in a Major League Baseball game. And that leads us to this. Do you watch the All-Star baseball game anymore?
I watched the home run derby. I will if it depends. So I'm big on. I think the one of the most interesting things, and one of the things I like to watch most in any sport is great starting pitching.
Right?
So if there are, two or three really good starters, I'll watch the beginning of the All-Star game just to watch, Paul Skeens, Shohei Ohtani, whoever, Steve when it was Steven Strasburg, those years, I would watch it for that. Otherwise, no. How about you?
Yeah. It was the last one I watched regularly, and I just don't care.
Yeah. Do you watch a home run derby or not?
I don't care about any of it.
Oh, home run derby is the home run derby is pretty good. I actually enjoy watching that.
No. Now, I did play MLB The Show yesterday. One of my friends came by last week and we fired it up. It was the first time I had played, and probably I had played that game in a couple of years. So, but it
And
was a
how
good
is it?
time. You know what, man? It's really a fantastic video game. Uh, I just don't have time to play it. It requires, I like to get into. When I play video games, I play college football, which I believe is coming out tomorrow, if it didn't come out today, and I play FIFA.
And Jeremiah Smith is a 99.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
And it's gotten some pretty good reviews, and so I'll mess around with it a little bit. But no, the baseball game is phenomenal. It just, dude, all these games, if it's in the game, it's in the game. And so I wasn't ready for that kind of investment for baseball.
Yeah, I'm not a video game guy at all. I don't play any video games, but
What do you do for fun then?
I'll tell you, I mean, I'm not particularly exciting. I got I like to read books, but I like to read them electronically.
Right, right.
And there's an app you can use to get books that are available at your local library. So
Right.
I got two books that came available this week, which are what I'm reading now. One is the new book from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan of the New York Times called Regime Change: Trump's First Year in Office. And the
That's probably
second book,
pretty good.
and the second book is actually a book that I've been meaning to read it came out maybe 8 or 9 years ago, called Thinking in Bets. And it's sort of anchoring your thinking as you're making decisions or whatever it is that you're doing, thinking about it in terms of how you think about betting on something. So that's what I kind of do in
Interesting.
my spare time.
The books I'm reading right now are The Tunnels of Ku Chi, which is about tunnel rats in the Vietnam War. Those guys who used, because the
Yeah, yeah,
Viet.
yeah.
So anyway, I'm reading about that. And Nightshade, which is a new character from Michael Conley, the man who brought you Bosch and the
Oh,
Lincoln Lawyer.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
that's what's on my reading list.
that's
I
that's
just
a
finished. I just finished some book today. Oh, I finished Belichick by Ian O'Connor.
oh, I heard that was excellent.
Yes, it's as an author myself, I have this deal, and it's funny because I don't do it. I do it the way I want to do it, which is opposite the way some people do it. I For me, I just don't. I Oh, let me say this: the book is excellent. Okay, so forget anything. So the book is excellent, but it started slow to me because it spends all this time talking about his parents and stuff, and all the biographies I read, I just get so bogged down early talking about. I like want to get to the main character.
Hmm.
So when I write biographies, what do? I start with the main character for the first couple of chapters,
Hmm.
and then I'll take you back to how they grew up and stuff,
Hmm.
because that's the way I like to read them. So I figured I'm going to write them that way.
It's your book. Write it the way you want it. I agree with that. So
Yeah. So the bottom line for me, hey, I'm glad his name is Dylan Dingler, not Dirk Diggler, but I'm glad to have a Buckeye in the All Star game, and so I may watch it just because of him.
bottom line for me is there wasn't really much else to talk about with related to Ohio State sports this week. This is a good story.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. He's Jeremy. I'm Jacques. We'll holler at you guys next
All right.
week.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.